Here we are on another interesting podcast with Mr. Kerwin Jean-Pierre, an Australian, South African AFC A licensed coach working with Escuela de Futbol Huesca in Spain as the head coach of their B team for the 2023-24 season. And he was also the head coach of the A Division honor team in the 2022-23 season, as well as worked as a head scout. Also worked previously for some reputed Australian clubs like Gold Coast Knights, Brisbane Roar, and Perth Glory. So, welcome on this podcast, Kerwin, and hope you're doing well. Tell us more about your journey so far.
Thank you, Ryan. First of all, thank you for having me on your podcast, for reaching out and wanting to talk football, which is a passion of mine, and I think it's a passion of yours as well. So I just wanted to first thank you, and also your audience as well.
Brilliant. So, why don't you tell us a bit about your journey so far in football?
Okay, so it started way back. I was born in South Africa. I grew up in a household that with football crazy, football mad. So obviously went to the field every training session with my father, every game, being around his team, his players. And I think that passion for football started at a young age for me, that I always wanted to have a ball wherever I went, interact with people. I love that. And then started playing football at the age of 4. Um, I think I had a little bit of talent because I played in the under 6 team, so I played two ages up when I was 4 years old and continued to progress. Um, did really well in my junior days, and then went on turned professional later on. Played in South Africa, and then from there when I retired, went into coaching. Still have I've got passion for football, but also to help the young players that have dreams and have goals, to try and help and assist them, but also to help their families, because you look from the outside as a parent, you think it's easy, but when on the inside there's a lot of things going on. So it's about to educate, obviously, the players, the young players, and be honest with them and transparent, and also to educate the parents and grandmothers, the grandfathers, so they understand it's not just all smooth sailing.
Absolutely.
And then in the back end of my football career, I ended up playing futsal. Um, I played futsal for the South African team. We went to the World Cup. We went to the African qualifiers in Libya in 2008. Um, futsal was coming into South Africa at that time. They didn't have it, but obviously FIFA said to South Africa they need to get a futsal team, which we didn't have a proper futsal team or a futsal league, but they just put a few players into it, and went to the African qualifiers and tried to get futsal up and running from that time, which was a good learning experience,
Yeah.
And then I went into coaching around 2010, 2011 season. I was a player coach. I wanted to hang my boots up, but the owner of the team that I was at didn't want, he said I still needed to play. So I went into a player coach role, which I enjoyed, working with players, the young players, that were eager to learn and better themselves, and seeing on weekends how they performed, which is really good. And then a lucky break came for me to move to Australia. My parents were in Australia. I went to visit them in 2011, spent 3 months there, met a guy in Australia that has his own football academy. He invited me down to do a trial session. I did it. He offered me a job. I accepted, and then obviously the process for applying for a work visa and a sponsorship visa started from there. Came back to South Africa, and in 4 months I was back in Australia, in 2012, February 2012. So that's a little bit about my journey.
So I think you've had quite some experience, as a player, as a player coach, as a coach. So we will go into more detail about your philosophy and things like that. But
Yeah.
having worked at some reputed clubs in Australia, what motivated you to move abroad? So your move to Spain. And also, are there any considerations you would advise to coaches who are thinking of, working abroad?
Um, I've coached in South Africa at a good level. I played at a good level. Moved to Australia. As you know, in Australia, I would say it's football or soccer, as they know, is not the main sport. It's only about the fourth sport because they've got AFL, they've got rugby league, rugby union, cricket, and then South Africa, and then soccer, football. But it's the most participated sport up until the age of 13 after the surveys they've done. There's only one professional league, which is the A League. All the leagues below are semi-professionals where players train 3 times a week and then they still have their jobs. Okay. It was a good experience in Australia. Challenging for me personally. I wanted to challenge myself. So that's why I did some research and I took a challenge to look in Europe, to come and see if I could get an opportunity and to challenge myself. For up and coming coaches, for me, it's a great experience. It might not be for everybody. Okay. There's a lot of things you need to consider. Obviously, the culture, it's totally different. You get to 1:30 and all the shops and everything closes, and it reopens at 5 o'clock. You eat a little bit later. You wake up a little bit later. Whereas you have to get used to it. You have to adjust. Where I am, it's in winter. It's really cold.
Yeah.
Okay. Which is a challenge, but not a big challenge. The language is the other one. So at my age now, going to language school and learning a new language and learning the verbs and feminine and masculine, it's a challenge on its own. But for me, it's a good challenge. Okay, I always love challenges, and being a footballer, you always look forward to the challenges, and at the end of the day, you want to be a winner, right? So you can't let anything get you down. It's tough for me because my family's still back in Australia.
Yeah.
So obviously coming home, not having your kids to talk to after a long day, it's challenging. Just Skyping or video call, it's hard. But obviously it's a sacrifice. My family support me 100%. Yeah, so that's what I could share a little bit with coaches that want to take the next step. For me, go for it.
So a lot of cultural adjustments and getting used to being away from the family. But yes, if passion is what drives you, then go for it. Interesting.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And now you also own your own academy back home called Futbol Center of Development, which you founded in 2016. So can you tell us more about the academy?
Yeah, so obviously in Australia, it's a little bit different compared to everywhere around the world. In Australia, they have their competitions. Okay, I opened the academy not to compete with clubs, but rather to offer an extra service to players that want to improve themselves, they want to get better, they want to go to the next level. Okay, because you at a club, you might do 2 or 3 sessions a week. You as a player, you might not get everything because it's a team environment. So I opened the academy where I work with small groups. I work one-on-ones. I work in groups of two to zone in on the player and fix certain bad habits they have and make them into good habits. But also, as the game's evolving, to bring them up to speed, football understanding, football knowledge, just the little things that can help them in their game and make them think differently. to be a better footballer, but not only a better footballer, Ryan, to be a better human being. So I don't just coach football, I coach the whole package, where it's about coaching the human being and also making better footballers.
That's
So decided to open that in after my first stint at the Brisbane Roar. I left the Brisbane Roar, and then I decided to open the academy to work with younger players. And then it started to expand. So when we started, we only had about 10 players, and then in our holiday camps, we are averaging 150, 180 players to our holiday camps and things like that. Then we decided to go a little bit bigger and get performance-based teams in different age groups and take them interstate in Australia and play tournaments in holidays, where the football league stops during the school holidays. So we would take them, we would travel with them. They would all stay in like a camp situation where the coaches would look after them. We all eat together. We go for a walk together. We go to the fields together. So that's how it grew. And in Australia, I didn't want to interfere with the clubs, and we wanted to get players from different clubs. So I'm not linked to any club in specific. We work with different players at different clubs.
That's really interesting because you've broadened your horizon to as many players as possible without any boundaries. And it was interesting that you mentioned that it's not just about the football, it's also about developing the human being. So now at your current club, which is Escuela Huesca, I read that more than 250 players of 23 different nationalities join each year for the program. So can you tell us
Yes.
more about that program?
Yeah. So Ryan, I'll go back a little bit. I was in Australia working with my academies, and I've got some really talented players that I was working with. Okay. For me, they needed a challenge, a new challenge. Okay. As I said, in Australia, we only have one professional league that's only has 12 teams. Okay. Where the young players are not getting as much chance. This was just before COVID. Because they had senior players, and it was harder for the younger players to get an opportunity. But obviously, after COVID, it's changed. More younger players are getting an opportunity in the A League now. So I was looking outside of Australia to create pathways for talented players, and especially the ones that I'm working with. Came to a tournament with Brisbane Roar in 2020. Met a person of the academy that I'm at now, the CEO, Escuela de Futbol Huesca. We played his team in the tournament. I was coaching the Brisbane Roar under 16 team. And we just started talking. And I said to him, is there any pathways? And because I was looking for something different, I wanted to bring players over for an entire season, but I wanted to try and get them to play in a local competition instead of just playing friendly games and tournaments. Okay, I think players need to be playing every week, training in a full-time program, being in a structured program. That's definitely going to improve any individual. Okay. So we started talking, and then obviously COVID came in, which stopped everything because borders got closed in Europe, in Australia. 2021 revisited the idea again, and then started talking to a lot of my parents in my academy. And the parents were really keen on the opportunity. Okay, so I got the ball rolling again. Spoke to the parents to say it's going ahead. The CEO was keen. So in the first year, 2022-23 season, we have a little partnership with Escuela de Futbol Huesca. And I brought over 18 players from my academy to Spain. Okay, playing in different categories. Okay, you have different age groups, different categories. So I brought 18 players across, including myself, where obviously I was a coach, but I'm also a mentor to the players. Australia is a far distance. Parents felt more comfortable with me being there and obviously helping out on the ground. And if there's any problems, they can contact me. I'm a point of contact. With obviously, we have a full-time sports psychologist at the academy, which he helps as well. Okay, we have tutors in the residence, which makes it a little bit easier. So that's how it started. All right. Moving on to the academy. This season we have 52 international players ranging from Canada, Brazil, Argentina, America, Latvia, Australia, New Zealand. Not too sure if I've forgotten anybody else. Okay, and then we've also got 350 Spanish players in the academy. So it's a mixture of Spanish players and foreign players. It's not just foreign players. Okay, where I would say 80% of the teams are Spanish players with an addition of the international players. Okay, so it's good for the international players because they adapting to the culture of Europe and European football, which is good. Okay, they mixing with Spanish teammates, which is good. They have Spanish coaches, physical coaches. They do Spanish lessons as well, 3 Spanish lessons a week. Okay, and my Australian boys, I've got them on an online schooling program, so they still do their online schooling through an Australian curriculum. So they're still doing their school. So on average, the boys are doing between 9, 10, 11 sessions a week. That could be team sessions, group sessions, position specific, video analysis sessions, and also gym sessions.
So it sounds quite a holistic program and really massive. So now you've got something huge going on in Spain as well as back home. So does it become challenging for you to keep a watch over your own academy's progress being based in another continent?
Yeah, it's challenging because obviously number one, the time difference. Okay, and also getting good people to run things and be on the ground for you if you're not there. But I've got a few good coaches. I've got my brother, I've got my big son and my daughter that are helping out. Obviously, I'm still doing things, running the programs, registering teams in competitions, and speaking and liaising with parents. Obviously, my coaches are committed and dedicated. They are not full-time coaches, okay? Because in Australia, there's no full-time coaches. You have another job. But they've been really good. Obviously, sometimes I have to stay up 1, 2 o'clock in the morning to obviously contact parents, speak to them, send information out to keep everybody on top of things in how things are working. You get questions that you need to answer. You get people wanting to inquire about your academy programs, your full-time programs. So it is challenging, but obviously having good people around me that are supporting me as well, because I can't do it on my own. As you know, football is a 24/7 job, I would call it. But I love what I do, okay, and the people that I work with, they also love what they do.
Yeah. So I think you've really given us a good overview of your life, what you do on a daily basis. So now moving on to a bit of technical stuff, real football related stuff. So, I noticed that you conduct one-to-one meetings with your players. So now is there
Yes.
a certain structure you follow or, any particular objectives you try to achieve when conducting these meetings?
Yes, so obviously it'll be different. Obviously, I have one-on-one meetings with players in Spain. All right. First of all, the way I started off is by finding out how is your family doing, how is your dog doing. Okay, because I feel that you need to go a little bit deeper than just football. Okay, obviously some of the players that I don't coach, there's quite a few over here in Spain, but I go out and make it my duty to watch games, watch training sessions, watch gym sessions, make sure that they're giving their all. So I'm on top of it. And then obviously when I have one-on-one meetings with them, it's about asking them about their family, their life, how are they doing? How are they coping with certain things? How's their schoolwork? Then get onto the football stuff to find out, are they understanding their coaches, what the expectations of the coaches, what the coach expects of them, what the coach expects of the team. Is there a language breakdown? Things like that. And then move on to in-depth football stuff where it's got to do with, I've noticed that, you're favoring your left foot, which is your weaker foot, and you're always trying to bring the ball back onto your right foot.
Yeah.
So how can we work together, and how can I challenge my player or the player to start focusing on his weaker foot?
Yeah.
So it's got to do with that. We set certain goals, obviously short goals, medium goals, and long goals with the player to try and achieve it. Okay. And to hold the player accountable. Okay. To make sure he's going to achieve it, but we are going to achieve it because I'm going to be working with him to try and achieve that. And also to bring in the parents up to speed, communicating with the parents to let them know how the players progressing, developing, adapting. Okay, because the first 3 months a player comes over into the full-time program, they're really excited because they're doing football full time every day. They're training or doing something where back home you don't get that opportunity to do that. So it's all really good. Then after the 3 months, when the cold sets in, then they start missing home, they start missing their friends, their families, where that's where you've got to know your individual players to step in and say, hey, let's go for a coffee or let's go for a orange juice and let's have a chat.
Right. I think this is a good framework for all the coaches listening. So, if anyone wants to maybe copy your structure, then I'm sure this sounds good. Sounds good for sure. So, can you
Yes.
also tell us what considerations are made whenever you design the 6-week cycle at your club?
Yeah, it depends. Obviously, you design a 6-week cycle, but you have the long-term goal, which is your whole season. Okay, so obviously your 6-week cycle will start with your conditioning. When the players first come in, you're going to do testing. Okay, you're going to do testing to see where they are because every player will be on a different level.
Yep.
Okay, from there you'll measure the height, you'll weigh the players, all that, and then you work on your conditioning cycles. Okay, to start off with, leading into obviously when your first preseason game is. So you want to work on loading them up, and then you also have deload weeks because you're not just going to maintain the intensity for the entire 6 weeks. You also have to have deload weeks, all right, where you bring the intensity down and you taper the week. And then as you go into the season, then you have to plan your 6-week cycles according to your games, how many games you have in the week. Do you have one? Do you have two? How many days off do the players need? How are the players feeling as well? It's really important. Okay. We also work with a company called Beyond Pulse, which all our players use the belts so we can see their workload in every training sessions, how many kilometers they've covered, their active participation. Okay, which helps me as a coach and the physical coach a lot, so we can see who might need an easy session, who might need an easy week. And then obviously working with the 6-week cycles, you might have a session that you plan to do come Wednesday next week, but in your game on Sunday, your team's lacked a certain thing in the game, so I need to add that session in on Wednesday. So I'll remove that session I had and move it later at the back end of the week rather, to focus on that and to refresh their minds of, this is what we're working on, this is the topic, because it's also about improving the individual and the team. Okay. Working with the B team, I'm working with 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds. So I look at it as a performance phase where you compete to win, right? You want to win as much as you want to still develop, but it's more about the winning factor now, and obviously winning the competition, winning the cup. So that's how you work with the 6-week cycle. It's not in stone, because for me as a coach, I feel that you need to go back, you need to change a few things according to the team, according to the stage of the competition.
It's I think yes, you have got structure everywhere. I think you've really got a method to whatever you do, and that brings me to the next question. That you also require to scout for talent. So how do you like to conduct trials at your club? And also, are there any particular traits you like to consider when judging a player?
Yeah, so that falls in for me for the talent idea, right? Obviously, when I look for players, I have my own document on my scouting things. What do I look for? Just say a fullback, okay, in the modern game. In possession, you need to have these traits A, B, and C. When we don't have the ball, he needs to have these traits A, B, and C. In transition moments, he needs to have these traits. Okay. Now, a player might not be at that level where he has a trait, he's got something, but depending on the age, depending on the mindset, depending if the player is coachable, a coach can always achieve those traits and work with the player to make him better and to fit into a structure or that philosophy of that coach. Okay, so obviously I've got a document that I work off what I look for in players. But for me, and this doesn't say that for me and my academy, we look for good people first of all.
Right.
Okay, when you have good people, okay, with good values, then they will fit into the culture no matter what.
Right.
Okay, and if the player is coachable, you can work with him. Okay. It's not only about taking the talented players with the wrong attitude. For me, I'd rather take a hard worker with the right attitude. Okay. And the talented players, but I also need to have a one-on-one conversation with the talented player to say, your attitude doesn't fit the criteria. I'm willing to give you a chance, but you need to be willing to say, okay, I'm gonna work with you, coach, or work with the coaches that I work with. At the end of the day, there's one goal. We want to improve the player as a human being, but also we want to improve him as a footballer to achieve his goals. Now, not every footballer is going to get a pro contract. Okay, but we can help them and assist them to bring them as close as possible.
Right. I think there's a slight network issue. No, perfect. Yes, so now that's the stage.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, so
No, we're back now.
Yes, so that's the stage of deciding whether to bring a player into your system or not. Now, once the player's in the system, what is your method to developing a player to, ensure accelerated growth? My question was that, the scouting part, yes, the scouting part is to decide whether to get a player into your program. Once the player is
Yes.
in your program, what is your method for player development? What's your way of ensuring that players develop in the best way possible?
Okay, so first of all, it's the environment. Okay. We each hold ourselves accountable, player and coach, or player, team, and coach. It depends. For me, it's the 1%ers that count, Ryan. You can get the 1%ers right, everything else will be fine. That's the way I look at it. Okay. So when I say 1%ers, be on time, have the right kit, be groomed properly. When you turn up to training, shake your coach's hand, shake your teammates' hands. When you finish, shake your coach's hand, shake your teammates' hands. Be a family. Family is the most important things for me. Okay. So obviously we make better people, then the values are instilled. And I'm not saying that families haven't done it, because families instill values from home. Okay. We are just touching on them again and bringing them to light in the academy or in the football club scene. And then obviously from there, we move on to, if you want to get better, there's no substitute for hard work. So if you're going to cut corners, well, then you're going to fall short at the end. So there's no cutting corners. You work hard. You can call the coach, you can call myself, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, I'm doing it to help you. And I want you to go as far as you can. Okay. Now, each player is different. And that's where, obviously, even in our one-on-one talks, it's for me as a coach to understand what personality you have, because Ryan, I might be able to push him to a certain limit and then I won't get anything out of him. Whereas another player, I might need to push him all the time for him to get a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But coming down from a coach, you need to understand your player. Not every player is the same. Right. Okay. So you need to understand what makes the player tick, what makes the player comfortable around you, around his teammates. Okay. And for me, that has worked because I can see it in my players. If I've got a player that's a striker and I've asked him, can you play right back for me today? Because I believe in him, he'll say, coach, anything for you, anything for the team, I'll play right back. It's not my position, but I'll do the best that I can. Yeah. And one thing I have, Ryan, is a no excuse policy. So we have no excuses. Let's find a solution. Let's get on with it.
I think there are some important messages about values. And again, I think this podcast in its entirety is a very, very good, reference point, which I do mention on podcasts with other coaches. But here, the specificity with which you're explaining your entire philosophy is something that can be, coaches can take notes of. So thank you for that. And now, what kind of pathways do you create so players can accelerate their progress?
So I wouldn't say, Ryan, accelerate their progress, because each player is different. As I said, players develop at their own timing. Okay. But for me, it's always trust the process. You've got to trust the process. Trust the people around you. That's the most important thing. Okay. Because as much as the players are learning, for me as a coach, with quite a few years experience, I'm still learning as well. Okay. You need to be open-minded. So obviously I've got a program in Australia that I work with under 10s, under 11s, under 12s, under 13s. Okay. And then I created a link in Spain where try and make it if players want to come over into a full-time program. Okay. Where they're still doing their schoolwork, education still important. Okay. They come into a full-time program in Spain. Okay. Now, for me, if you're in a full-time program and you're training every day, you are definitely going to improve. There's no doubt about it. Okay. You're going to improve mentally, physically, technically. Now, in Spain, the players are a little bit more technical compared to players from America, Australia. Okay. But imagine being in the environment, working every day in that environment, you're definitely going to improve. Yep. Okay. So it's about the individual. How much does he want to challenge himself? Okay. Because coming over to Spain is not, for me, it's not a holiday. You're coming over to work hard, to improve yourself. Yep. All right. Where I look at it, and in Australia, they don't have full-time programs. Okay. You either train 3 or 4 times a week, which I'm not saying it's not good, but imagine having 4 sessions to 10 and 11 sessions a week. Which player is gonna gonna advance at a quicker rate.
Right.
The player in an environment where he's doing 10, 11 sessions, now that includes gym session, 3 gym sessions a week, 1 video analysis where you focusing on your game, you building your football knowledge up as a player. Okay, you're doing 1 individual session in your position specific. So if you were center back, you're working on defending crosses, you're working on defending direct balls, you're working on playing out from the back.
Yeah.
Okay, whereas in clubland you can't really do it because it's 1 coach and assistant with the whole team, 16 or 18 players, and then you've got 4 team training sessions. Whereas today you might be training this week in a 3-5-2 or 5-3-2 formation because the team you're playing set up a little bit different. Next week you're setting up in a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
So it's all football knowledge and educating the player of understanding that, and then moving on to match day. That's where the players develop the most.
Yeah.
You know, playing in that environment, playing against technically better players, playing on 4G pitches, because in Brisbane and Gold Coast, where I'm from, we only play on grass pitches.
Okay.
So you come to Spain, there's all artificial fields.
Yeah.
So you have to change. The speed of the game is quicker. The ball moves much quicker. You know, it's the players in Spain are very street smart. So if you go past them, they'll pull your shorts, they'll pull you back. Whereas in Australia, we don't really do that, because we do that, we get an immediate yellow card. Okay, so the players are not brought up in that environment where it's a new environment for them. But as they get to learn, then they start to see, okay, how can I make the game easier for me and my team? Where if I had to be a little bit smarter and I'm going up for a header and this opponent is jumping and I nudge him before the ball comes in, okay, he goes off balance, then I've got a better opportunity of getting the ball.
Yeah.
So making them a little bit smart in that sense. Whereas when I was growing up, for us, we used to play on the street. Okay, so you come home from school, if you don't have training, you're playing on the street with your friends. You're playing 2v2, 3v3 games where football's being the teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, you're playing with bigger players, and you could be a younger player, but you know you want to play, so you have to win. Whereas now, obviously, technologies come in. There's PlayStation. There's lots of things on TV that kids rather go and watch than be outside playing with the ball.
Yeah.
You know, I think also what we take for when you were younger, you would have a ball wherever you went, or I would have a ball, go to the football field, go anywhere, have a ball. But as you get older, you lose that.
Yeah.
When you get to 15, 16, you lose that. Whereas I feel it's important just to take a ball. Like you go to the shopping centers, mum's gone into the shops. Okay, I'll go onto the wall. I'll just pass the ball against the wall or something like that.
Right.
You know?
It's I think because you've worked so many years in youth football, I think that's why you're very clear on basically what the requirements are of youth players. But speaking about the in-house program that you have, which obviously sounds like a dream, since you've worked in youth football for so long, how do you view the relationship between academics and football for youth players?
Ryan, did you say academics
Yes.
or academies?
No, academics.
So their school curriculum.
Yes.
Okay, so I look at it, and people might say football is your first and education is your second. Okay, I look at it as they work together. Okay, because sometimes you need a break from football. You need to switch off from football a little bit. Okay, to refresh the mind, and there's no better way than doing your academics and still maintaining what you do on the field in the classroom or online, where you still want to achieve those little 1%ers and achieve those short-term, medium, long-term goals. If I'm a B student, okay, that's great, but how can I be an A student? Do I need to sacrifice a little bit more time over here to achieve that? Do I need a little bit more support from somebody, from maybe my roommate, where he can support me and assist? Because I think they work hand in hand. You know, and I know that football's a short career. Okay. So you need to have a backup plan. So you need to get good grades. Okay. And you can learn a lot from the classroom, and it mixes with football. Okay. There's a lot of things what you do in the classroom that you also do in football. And coaches are also educators. We want to educate you about the game, like teachers want to educate you about whatever subjects you're doing. So for me, education is just as important as your career, your football career, or anything that you do. Okay, so I always try and maintain my players that they maintaining their grades. Okay, if they are behind, we get an email from the school to say um, Bob hasn't submitted his assignment. Okay, we'll call Bob in. Why haven't you submitted? Okay, all right. Today you're going to miss training, but you're going to finish your assignment and you're going to hand it in by a certain time. Okay. Um, it's not that you're going to go to training and you're going to do it later. No, we need to do it now because you need to maintain your academics as well. Okay. Um, so far since this is my second season over here with players. Uh, all the players that have come have maintained their grades. Parents are really happy. Okay. And that's a good thing because, parents also want them to achieve good results academically. And that's one of the questions I got asked at the beginning. What's going to happen with the academic part?
Yeah.
Are they still going to maintain their grades? Are they still going to get their OP scores? So when they finish high school, can they go into university and do a degree or whatever they want to do? So it's for me to have those conversations with the players to say this is just as important.
So I think it's truly a program, from the sounds of it, a program that is holistic, and players will have a future regardless of, whether they make it in the game or not. And now, before I let you go, the standard question that I ask every guest on the podcast: what are your future plans individually, and also how can the audience contact you if they wish to?
Ryan, my future plans. I'm a coach. I'm a go-getter. I'm passionate about the game. I love the game. So I'm always looking for new challenges for me individually as a coach, to take me out my comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because I feel that's where the magic happens. When someone's in their comfort zone and they're comfortable, they're still good, but take them out their comfort zone and then they can achieve much more, you know? Um, what the future is for me, I'm unsure at the moment. I can't tell you that because I don't know myself what it is. But obviously, if an opportunity comes in from a professional club, um, I will have to look at it and see if it's the best option for me
Yeah.
individually. Okay. But also I still wanna look after players that I work with, mentor players, okay, guide players, and help them when they have some questions about life, about football, okay, and try and give them the best possible advice I can, but also to help parents understand the whole football dynamic. If their kid gets signed, how does it work? How does the payments work? They might not get paid till they this age, or I've got a few players at the moment that there's some interest from um, European clubs, but unfortunately they don't have European passports, so they can't sign till they're 18 years old.
Mhm.
So it's for me to discuss with the player and maintain and for him to maintain his level because people are always watching, but also to explain to the parents that it's not a waste of time. People are watching you, but once you turn 17 and a half, then teams are going to say, okay, we can sign you, because at the moment they're not going to sign you if they can't use you, because number one, you can't play, you're just going to train. So you're going to be no use to the team. And as a player, you're not going to be getting that development.
Yeah. Yeah.
If people want to contact me, not a problem. I've got a WhatsApp number that they can WhatsApp me messages. I can share it with you, Ryan. I've got a Spanish number. I've got an email address that I can share. People can contact me anytime they feel they need some advice, or if they just want to talk football, or if they need some opportunities for younger players. Okay. Or if they need some guidance, I'm always willing to help.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to put your contact details in the description of the video. And
Okay.
overall, it was quite a very, very interesting podcast to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions on football. And this is definitely a good reference point, a good learning, I would say. Yeah, it's a fantastic resource to have on the internet now. So, yes, thank you for your time. It was very, very enjoyable and of great use to me for sure.
Thank you, Ryan, for having me. It was a privilege to be on your podcast, and thanks to the listeners that will be listening in. As I said, if anybody needs anything, you can reach out to me, and I'll be willing to help or to offer advice or support wherever I can.
Brilliant.